I know my calculus. It says Dave Franco plus Alison Brie equals a pretty scary movie. Let's talk about the not remake of the MTV film Together. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Together, not a remake of the 1999, I think roughly around that time, MTV film Together, which is a classic. It's maybe a masterpiece. This is not a remake of that movie. There is no dancing, I don't think. There's no singing. There's no five boy band members. This is a body horror movie with Dave Franco and Alison Brie. It is a new neon horror film. Is this movie worth your time? Is this movie worth watching? Well, my hot take is I think you should watch later. Wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. It's an interesting idea with some really great performances and some really good practical effects, but it's a little bit slow. It's actually not very scary, which was surprising because this feels like a film that would be scary, and it kind of goes off the rails at the end of the film. So I appreciated what it was going for. I appreciated a lot of what it did. I just didn't like it as much as I expected. I kind of thought it would be a better movie overall, but I definitely think you should check it out eventually. Just wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. So. All that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some big surprises, some big reveals as these two grow together. I would turn off and get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So, in Together, you have a young couple, although they've been together for a while and are not married yet. You've got Tim and Millie. They move out to the country to kind of for Millie's job, but when they get there, something happens to them that makes them grow closer together, but that is actually a very scary thing. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I like the idea. It's a nice idea. It's an interesting idea. You know, you've got basically a perfect horror setup. They move out to this new place. They go out into the woods. Something happens. It is a really good horror idea. And also, I liked the idea of the like the together part of it, which I'm not going to go into here. I'll go into it later. But like the idea that they're starting to get closer and closer was interesting. Second thing I love the practical effects. You have to have some practical effects with some of the weird stuff that happens here. There's a little bit of blood, there's a little bit of gore, and then there's just some like body horror that is interesting to see. And the last thing I love the performances. Really great performances, especially Dave Franco and Alison Brie. Dave Franco especially does a really good job. He has to do a lot to kind of sell what is happening, and he does a great job. Alison Brie is wonderful as well. You know, they get into some very difficult situations, so they both put in fantastic performances. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, it's a little bit slow, and look, I'm okay with a slow burn build up horror movie, but this is a pretty slow overall horror movie. It's not terrible. It has a nice long opening, which I'm okay with. And then the progression of the body horror is also a little bit slower than I was hoping for. So it's not too bad, but it didn't have the pace I was hoping for. It felt a little bit long, and it kind of didn't progress as much as I was hoping. It didn't progress as fast as I was hoping it would. I would probably be okay with that, but the second thing I didn't love as much is it's just not scary. It's not really a scary film. It is a body horror film, but it is not really a scary film. I didn't, never really felt too concerned for them. I don't know why. It just didn't have that right sense of dread, I think. So again, it is a horror movie that is not scary. That's not great overall. And the third thing I didn't love as much, I'll call it the parents part. I'm not going to go into it here. There's something about parents in this film that felt a little bit tacked on. I mean, it had a nice like scare moment, and it did, I guess, frame one of the characters, but it didn't really connect, I think, with the overall things that were happening. And the last thing I didn't love as much, it goes off the rails at the end, especially with some bad CG. So I'm not going to get into it here. I'll get into the recap, but that happened as well. So it's a film that I love the idea, I love the performances, but didn't love the progression and didn't love the ending. So all that being said, Together comes to theaters on July 30th, 2025. Like I said, I think you should watch later, wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do see it, if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, in Together, like I said, you've got Tim and Millie. They've been together for years and are starting to have some relationship issues. Millie is driven. She is a teacher. She wants to go teach in this other school because I think she'll have a bit greater impact there. And also, I think she wants to get away from the city. Tim is kind of not moving on in his life. He was in this band before. He started dating Millie. He kind of stopped being in the band, but he doesn't really feel like he does any like much on his own. He doesn't feel driven. Feels like he's just kind of like going through life. And this is causing people to think like, oh, Millie's better. Millie's like too good for you. Probably true, but it's not really helping Tim's confidence, not really helping the relationship. They have their own relationship issues, but they are moving out into the country to help Millie's career, and so they are starting a new life. Now, when they get there, Tim has some nightmares about his parents. It's not really a great connection to what overall is happening, but apparently Tim found his parents after his dad died. His dad had like died, I guess, and then his mother had like stayed in the house while his dad was like rotting in the bedroom. And I guess the point here was like it, the smell ratcheted up a little bit until it was like unbearable for Tim because Tim hadn't been there, but his mother just kind of got used to it, I guess. And so he like discovered them, and his mother was like smiling when she either died or looked at him. It was weird, but it was also related to some sort of like rat thing that happened. They discovered a rat king in their house that was smelling. You think that this is going to be the start of some sort of creepy horror things. It's not. It's just kind of a start. It's not really related to much. I guess the relationship is that, his mother and father were like so close that they couldn't be without each other, which is part of like the plot. And then those rats, it's a rat king, so they were all so close that they got so tangled up that they couldn't get anywhere and they died. So there we go. Again, the parents part didn't really connect too much. I guess it had a connection to the overall things, but didn't connect much with the story. So they get to the house. They start to acclimate. Millie goes to work. She meets some of her coworkers, and they decide, hey, we're going to go on a hike. We're going to go get outside and see. While they're hiking, it starts raining. They're trying to figure out what to do, and they fall into a sinkhole. And when they fall into the sinkhole, they're both very thirsty. And apparently, they didn't drink any water. I don't know why they didn't drink any water. Maybe they were drinking throughout the day, thinking that they would have, they'd almost be home, but they don't have any water. But there is this like weird, creepy pool in here that looks kind of like something out of the Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets. And Tim is like, you know what? I'll drink it. That's fine. So he drinks this water. Then they start feeling connected. That night, they start to get connected. They sleep, next to each other, and their legs kind of like they don't merge, but they get really kind of stuck to each other. There's like a film on them, and when they pull apart, it like rips some of their skin. So this is like the first like inkling that maybe they are starting to like get really close. But you could also just explain it away as like mildew or like some sort of slime in the cave, whatever. The next day, they get out, which is weird. I don't know why they didn't get out before. I don't know why they just stayed there. I guess it was raining, but the next morning they were able to climb out and they go back. But they start to feel more connected. Tim feels it at first. Tim feels the urge much more, probably because he drank more of this water. But Millie starts to get it later. Now, Millie is a teacher. She goes to her school. She's teaching. She meets Jamie, who's like one of the teachers who hired her. He's super nice. He's super outgoing. We kind of think that maybe Jamie might have a thing for Millie. But later we find out that he was married to another man, although that person seems to be gone now. So Jamie just seems to be nice, seems to be a little bit quirky, and they start to become friends. Now, eventually, Tim and Millie start to get closer. It's little things at first, but it starts to get larger the more it goes on. Now, as Tim starts acting strangely, he starts like zoning out. He starts not, remembering things that were happening. And he also starts sticking to Millie in ways like they'll sleep and he'll like his hand will be like stuck there. At one point they kiss, and when they pull away, their lips are like stuck together, and Millie thinks he bit her. Um, she thinks it's a little bit innocuous, but eventually Tim wants to go for a trip. He wants to go back to the city for a gig. He is missing his old rock star life. He's missing his friends. So he wants to go back and do that gig, but he can't leave. When he's at the train station, he's there ready to go and he can't leave. He physically can't leave. He starts feeling sick. And so he says he's thirsting for Millie. So he basically walks to Millie's classroom, to Millie's school. He can't think of anything else. He takes her into the school bathroom and they have sex in the school bathroom. And after, Tim is stuck to Millie. The parts that you would use when you're having sex are stuck together and they have to pull themselves apart in a painful scene, not as gruesome as you would expect, but a painful scene nonetheless. Now, This causes Millie to be embarrassed. She, gets kind of caught at school, and so she's embarrassed about all this. She's worried about her career. And so they eventually end up sleeping in separate rooms that night. But that night they are drawn together like magnets. They're kind of like pulled together. They can't escape. And eventually they fall asleep. And when they wake up, their hands are merged together. Now, Millie takes a saw. I think it's a Makita saw. Like it looks like a Makita handsaw, and saws their hands apart on the skin. Not anything too gruesome, but saws their hands apart. And once they're separated, they decide to go for help, but they can't go together because they're too dangerous together. So they go separately. Millie goes off to go to Jamie, and after she leaves, Tim goes to the cave without telling Millie he wants to get some more answers there. He gets into the cave, and when he's exploring the cave, he sees like some pews, he sees like a bell, he sees like some murals of like an old religion. It seems like this is like a temple that collapsed down into this sinkhole. But he also sees in there an abomination. There's a couple that went missing. They're kind of like merged together. They look creepy, but one of them has like a knife sticking out of him. And so it seems like maybe they were merging and one of them died. They look like zombies essentially. Uh, Tim gets freaked out. He pulls that knife out and then runs. Millie, meanwhile, goes to Jamie's place. She finds a wedding video of Jamie and his husband when they got married, and it turns out that they were in this cult that like uh uses this temple that had collapsed where Tim and Millie spent that night before. Apparently, this temple used to be above ground. There was a cult there. They would go to this temple, and they believed that basically you you have like a separate half of you that you need to survive to feel whole. You can't feel whole without that. So they look for that other half, and then they drink this like special water from this cave, and that causes them to eventually merge into one. They merge together. We see the wedding video, we see them drinking the water, and they cut each other to assist with the merging. Jamie's there. He tells Millie about all of this. He tells Millie that, that she just should just accept it. And in order to help that along, he cuts Millie along her arm. They find that that helps with the merging process. Millie is freaked out about this, and so she runs back to Tim. But before she does that, she like punches Jamie. And we see when she punches him, like his face distorts or his face changes. It feels like maybe that there, there's something going on with him, and his voice changes as well. So Millie runs back to Tim. When she gets back to him, he says, he wants to be with her. He'd been a little bit standoffish at first, but now he was like fully committed to her. But then he goes and tries to kill himself because he doesn't want to like have this keep going. He thinks that by killing himself is the only way to like save both of them. So he has a knife to the throat, and that's when Millie collapses from blood loss from that cut that she had. It was a bad cut. She's bleeding, and so she collapses. Now, she wakes up later and she sees Tim there. So he didn't kill himself, but he had to put his hand on her wound to stop the bleeding. And we see this scene as she's collapsing. He's like holding her, trying to stop the bleeding. And as he's doing this, the blood is like flowing up his arm, and you see like blood like coming into his head, basically. So he is doing this. She wakes up and she sees him on there, and his hand has like merged into her forearm. And so the merging has already happened. They decide that they're just going to merge together. They're going to do it. And so they do it. They take off their clothes, they have sex, and they start to merge together. While they're merging together, they play a Spice Girls song because on Tim and Millie, one of their first dates, Millie mentioned that Spice Girls was her favorite album or artist. And so Tim got her a vinyl of it. And so when they go to merge together, they start playing Spice Girls. They play Two Becomes One, and then they kind of merge. They have sex and they kind of merge together. So again, kind of a nice callback there. Like it's together. It's not the Together movie that I was hoping it would be, the like boy band movie, but there is a kind of like boy band-ish band in there. So there you go. They like start to go into each other's bodies, and it is this it's a beautiful scene, but then the CG really kind of messes it up because like it's very clearly CG when they're merging, and you see this like eventually they become almost this like abomination, this like combination of the two of them that it doesn't look great, and it's kind of sad that that's like the final like scene that we see. But that's what we see. We see them kind of like becoming this abomination. And then it is a couple days later, Millie's mom and dad are coming to see them, to visit them in their new place. They get there, they go out, they go up to the door, they knock on the door. There's one of those like weird bells that was related to this like chapel that we saw earlier. And the person who answers the door looks like if you had asked AI to merge Alison Brie and Dave Franco into one person, that's who it is. I mean, we don't know who the person is. I'll just call it Tilly, because that's kind of Tim and Millie combined. It's Tilly, and it is, I guess, Tim and Millie combined into one person. They have merged. They are now one person, and they answer the door. And that is together. Like I said, I like the idea. I just didn't really do it for me overall. I want it to be better than it was, but I definitely think you should check it out eventually. Just wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. There was no stinger, there was no after credits scene, anything like that. So once the credits start rolling, you can head out. But let me know what you think, and thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.